remember when I was 6 years old. I used to play dress up with either Disney princess costumes or clothes from my mother's closet, and just feeling awesome. I didn't have to think about what I was going to wear. I would just pick out something pink and glittery and leave the house without one bit of regret. I would walk around in my flowing pink princess gown, and it made me feel like I was conquering the world. We can all think back to a time where anything we had in our closet was good enough and made us feel confident. Something that made us feel like we didn't have to be compared to what others were wearing. Something that made us feel like we didn't have to go to the store and buy new clothes just so that we could fit in. Reflecting back on that, I still wish I could feel that way. Hands up if you actually care about what you wear every day. We all do, right? It's hardwired in us to care about our appearance. We're in a changing world where new trends are continuously being put out on the market, waiting for us to buy it and keep on buying it until we feel satisfied. The first time I realized about fashion contributing to land waste was watching a documentary called War on Waste. I was in year 7, and I was sitting in my science classroom watching this man talking about waste that was being added to our already huge landfill. At the time, I didn't really grasp the significance of the problem. As I was yet to become an independent consumer, I did not understand the buying to throwing away cycle. As a young student, I didn't understand the sheer volume of energy and materials that underpinned our fashion industry. As a young person, I hadn't comprehended that 85% was wasted to provide us the 15% we needed. It was not until 2 years later, when I sat down with my mum to watch the documentary again, that I started to realize that this issue was something that needed to be addressed urgently. It not only made me aware of this ongoing issue that people like myself seem to be blind to, but it also allowed me to start taking little steps into becoming ethical in buying fashion. However, I still lean towards fast fashion labels such as Zara and H&M, as social media advertised new trends all the time, and celebrities would be posting pictures of themselves in new outfits, which influenced me to become a fast fashion consumer. It became a real conflict for me because even though I watched this documentary, I still wanted to keep up to trend. Now that I work in the fashion industry, my eyes have opened to the complexities of the business and the conflicting goals at each stage of the manufacturing and buying process. It opened my eyes to the levels of waste produced at every stage in the fashion cycle. Did you know that in Australia, we now send approximately 85% of new textiles to landfill every year, and roughly 500,000 tonnes of used clothes are sent to landfill every year in Australia, which is equivalent to 23 kilograms of unwanted clothes per person. Just think about it. When you go on holiday, say a 3-week trip to Europe, your international luggage limit is 23 kilograms. Now picture a family of 4 driving to the airport with 4 suitcases, but instead of going to the terminal, they head to the rubbish tip and dump their luggage. That dumping represents each person's contribution to clothing landfill every year. That's the same for every man, woman, and child who is sending a suitcase into landfill each year. To think of it another way, every 10 minutes, 6 tonnes of clothing are sent to landfill in Australia, which equates to 144 6-tonne trucks a day. Fast fashion retailers are the main source for the clothing dumped in our garbage bins. Fast fashion is inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends. To put it in simpler terms, designs that move from catwalk to storefront in a matter of weeks. When we see an item on a rack that we like, we often check the price. If the item is inexpensive, we get excited, try it on, and buy it. It seems too good to be true, but this is what fast fashion retailers run on. They produce the item, make it cheap, and sell it, knowing that consumers will go for any item that is trendy and affordable. Zara is one of the biggest retailers in fast fashion and gets deliveries of new merchandise twice per week. H&M get daily shipments, and Topshop introduces 400 new styles a week on its website. Because of this, we now consume about 80 billion new pieces of clothing each year. This problem is becoming increasingly prominent due to the new merchandise that is being produced each week. On top of this, we are getting stuck in this vicious cycle of we buy it, wear it once or twice, get sick of it, or believe it's out of fashion, and then throw it away. This throwaway culture that these big businesses have created is not only causing a huge environmental problem, but is lost by the community, which is unaware of its actions. Clothing that is being produced is most likely made in huge factories that are near a huge water source, which is further mistreating the supply chain. Supply chains are the sequence of processes in the production and distribution of an item. In the fashion industry, there is little publication around whether these items are produced ethically or not, and if the production is damaging our environment. But let me tell you now, the production of these cheap items that we value for a short amount of time contributes significantly to damaging our environment. Fashion is a land and water-intensive industry, and when producing clothing, large amounts of water, chemicals, and energy are used to create them. To produce one cotton t-shirt, it takes 2,700 liters of water. To put that into perspective, we all drink about 2 liters of water a day. This means that we have 4 years of drinking water being used for every cotton shirt manufactured. 24.6 million cotton shirts are manufactured for the Australian market every year, which effectively numbers our population. Each year, we are using 4 years' worth of drinking water for every Australian to make the shirts for Australian fashion. But what happens to all the leftover chemicals that are not going to be used for future stocks? Unfortunately, all this leftover toxic chemicals are dumped into landfill too, or find their way into clean water supplies, affecting the water sources that is used for drinking and agriculture. In addition, the gas emissions that are emitted from these factories that produce our clothing contribute to 1.2 billion tons of carbon that is being released into our atmosphere. The one question is, what is happening now, and what can we do? Since our consumption level of clothing has doubled in the past 15 years, our landfill is continuing to increase the levels of greenhouse gases that emit into our atmosphere. You're probably thinking, well, what can we do to reduce our landfill? There are some businesses, such as Zara and H&M, who are now adopting ethical practices and using ethical and sustainable materials to produce their clothing, which with the use of its ethical model created by its owner, Inditex. This model aims to have H&M only use sustainable materials in its production by 2030, to allow us to rewear, recycle, and reuse clothing items we don't use. By recycling and reusing these sustainable items, businesses won't have to take out already scarce resources to produce more stock. H&M have also created a new brand called A-Found, where 95% of the cotton they use to produce clothing is either recycled or from sustainable resources. Zara have similarly adopted some ethical practices by reselling items that were not popular and giving them a second chance, and if not successful, will recycle these items and use it to create new merchandise without having to add it to our landfill. Recently, high fashion retailers such as Prada have also started to become ethical by creating a new material called Re-Nylon, which is made from textile fiber waste from landfill. Another business called Reformation created a ref scale that tracks the pounds of waste that they generate, and to produce their clothing, they use textile scraps and recycle and reuse them. They now recycle 75% of their waste to prevent adding these scraps to landfill. Many fashion brands and fast fashion brands are now bringing and implementing these ethical and sustainable methods to the forefront of the fashion industry. But now it's time for us, as consumers, to act and further contribute to these steps that these businesses are already taking. Keep re-wearing your clothes you already have in your closet. How often do we see fashion trends repeated every few years? Be proud of your need to not keep buying the latest trends. If we change our behaviors, then the fashion industry will change theirs and be able to reduce waste created in feeding the fashion cycle. Let's flip the 85-15 waste to purchase ratio to 15% wasted and 85% purchased. Let's help the fashion industry to fix this systemic issue by changing our own habits. It becomes daunting for us to all think that we can, as an individual, affect change in such a huge industry. But social activist campaigns to raise awareness and stir action are numerous throughout history, such as the recent #MeToo campaign that focused on highlighting the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and harassment across the world. Or more commercially oriented campaigns sponsored by Dove, #RealBeauty, which focused on female beauty and promoting self-esteem and self-loving. When you look into your closet, say to yourself, what else do I need, or have I already got enough? Next time you shop, start asking yourself these questions. Do I need to buy this? Will I wear this more than 3 times? Or could I rent this item instead? This isn't about being overly radical and preaching that you should wear the same thing 365 days a year. It is about being more considered in your fashion buying behavior. Take out some of that impulse of fashion buying and rewear what you already have. Use your extended, powerful voice, that is, social media. Make your social groups aware. Continue to make the global community aware. Use the public #rewear, which already has 26,000 tags. Tag your rewears and join the global community's voice. Tag the amount of times you've worn your item, #rewear5, and be proud. Or use the #wearout-not-throwout tag as an additional tag to emphasize your good actions. If we change the way that we engage fashion, the fashion industry will change for a better future. One change, one community, one planet. Thank you.